Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mack. I am your host. I'm also the producer and the executive producer and the CEO. I am also the head of human resources, and I work in the mailroom. So it's not a big board of directors is what I'm trying to tell you. All right, listen, I want to talk about Russia. I want to talk about Putin. I want to talk about Trump. I want to talk about Peter Strzok, Rod Rosenstein. I want to talk a little bit about Stormy Daniels. I want to talk about all these things, but right now I need to talk to you about this. As you can see, we are on my homepage on YouTube, In Pursuit of Truth. And I want to go back to this thing about the views real quick. And again, please keep in mind, this isn't so much about my concern about the views, but I can see my last video got 13,000 views. I have 15,000 subscribers. That means 2,000 of you at least are not seeing my videos. And as you know, probably very well already, the trolls are out in full force as of late. So I've cut back on the videos every other day or so, giving it a little time in between. This has happened to me before, and that kind of helped fix it a little bit, is just laying off. But YouTube is putting a hard squeeze on me. I have a hashtag YouTube lies going around if you want to get that going if you're on Twitter. But that being said, I am just laying low while I kind of take the shrapnel from YouTube. And of course, YouTube is going to be putting $25 million more in to make sure that we get more authoritative news. So I think you know where this is going. So all that being said, do me a favor. The biggest thing that you can do for me, if you would, is share my videos. I greatly appreciate it. That's all I ask of you. This is a full-time job just trying to get the information to you. So that would be greatly appreciated. Most of you already know that. Now listen, you can also find me on Gab, In Pursuit of Truth. Generally, I post videos here from YouTube. As far as I know, it's the only way I can do it. If I could upload directly, I would love to do that. That would make Gab a great asset. So you're welcome to follow me on Gab. I know a lot of you already do. I am also back up on BitChute. You can find me as In Pursuit of Truth. I've got it. Looks like I've just got it as one word here. In Pursuit of Truth. And now BitChute I really enjoy because I can upload separately, but it takes a long time. Maybe it's the country I'm living in or whatnot, but it's very, very slow for me and a little bit clumsy. However, I really, really like that feature. And I'm also excited to announce that I am going to be on Real.video very soon. As you can see, I've got my little profile right here. Now, they're not accepting any videos quite yet. It's not yet up, but I'm very optimistic about this Real.video. If you know about Real.video and you'd like to get involved, or you have anything that you'd like to share about your experience with it so far, let me know. But as far as I'm understanding, it is not quite up and running, so I will let you know. But this should be completely separate of YouTube, which should prove to be very exciting. There's a lot of new platforms out there. And of course, you can always find me on the Twitter. This is where you're going to see me probably the most active. It's the easiest way for me to sort of interact with you, and I love interacting with you over here. So if you are so inclined, I know a lot of you don't like Twitter, and that's okay too. But those of you who do, please join me over here on Twitter. This is where I am pretty much daily and nightly. I'm consistent here, and this is my way. And you can see that I post pretty often here, keeping in touch with you about things, just in case YouTube puts the squeeze on me. All that being said, please remember, YouTube is unsubscribing you. They are unnotifying you, not just of my channel, but of course many of your favorite channels, I'm sure. So be aware of that, and just keep coming back. Keep searching In Pursuit of Truth on all these platforms, and you should be able to find me. Over here on Twitter, I am IPOT1776. That's IPOT1776. Okay, now that we got all that out of the way, I want to talk about the Helsinki Summit. Let's go here. From the Washington Times, Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin to sideline Iran. With the Helsinki summit approaching between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, the situation on the ground in the Middle East is remarkably different than it was just a very short time ago. Iran, once well on its way to becoming the hegemon in the region, is rapidly becoming marginalized. In fact, you could say the regime is on its way to collapse, undermined by forces from within. Mr. Trump's help was crucial, of course. The coming U.S. sanctions, according to Secretary of State Pompeo, will be devastating. With the regime having spent all its money on the wars in Syria and Iraq, if oil revenues go to zero, it's game over for the mullahs. The killers in Tehran know this. This is why Iran dispatched Ali Akbar Velayati, an advisor to the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on foreign issues, to Moscow this week to deliver a threat to Mr. Putin. Do not make a deal with Mr. Trump or your forces in Syria may suffer. Iran and Russia have forces in Syria bolstering the Assad regime. With the Kremlin having wound down the bulk of its forces inside Syria, Iran is resisting growing pressure to give up its firmly entrenched positions in Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. But Russia no longer needs anything that Iran has to give. One reason for Mr. Putin's support of the Iran deal and for the regime itself has been for help in propping up the Assad government, a long-term Soviet-Russian ally. Mr. Putin would understandably like to preserve the Russian Navy base at the port of Tartus and its access to the airfields near Latakia. But the main reason Mr. Putin has sought good relations with Iran had been simply for money, something Tehran will have far less of in the future. The Russian leader may just tell the mullahs it's just not working out. It will be interesting to see how this all goes down over the next few weeks. There are reports that Russia has essentially given assurances to Mr. Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that Moscow will support Iran's withdrawal from southern Syria, where it threatens the Golan, in exchange for sanctions relief and even a possible U.S. recognition of Russia's annexation of Crimea. Bibi has visited Moscow no less than 8 times in the recent past, seeking assurances that the Iranian fighters will not be allowed in positions just across the Syrian border from Israel. Iranian leaders are scared. Mr. Trump has them in a box and they know it. The State Department is warning of an uptick in state-sponsored terrorism from Iran as it lashes out over its new isolation and weakened position. An Iranian diplomat was just arrested in Germany for organizing and equipping a sleeper cell planning to bomb the Free Iran gathering of exiled dissidents in Paris recently. Mr. Putin will have to make a choice. His economy is still very weak, although higher oil prices have taken off some of the pressure. Growth is still expected to be around 1%. Western sanctions are biting. He really can no longer afford an open-ended war in Syria. It's expensive and leaves Russian armed forces overextended. It was good for a while to show Russia's new capabilities, but now it's getting old. So Russia needs to cut a deal, and Mr. Putin is negotiating with Mr. Trump, the best negotiator in the world. The mullahs in Tehran should not expect Vladimir Putin to save them. So this is a nice article by L. Todd Wood. There's some really pertinent talking points here in regards to this week and the upcoming Helsinki summit, as well as some things that we've already learned from QAnon. So we've got President Trump coming off of NATO, which, look, you can let the political debate rage, but I would think if you're just looking at it from a business standpoint, it seems like a win. Asking everybody to pay their fair share, that's just good business. And good business will end up being a good political move later on. And then next, President Trump heads to the UK, where he walked the Queen up and down the promenade until she got tired. There was a bit of pomp and circumstance. And, of course, he spent a lot of time with Theresa May. And one of the big takeaways for me was actually watching this press conference. All the mainstream media outlets were really pressing President Trump hard as far as how he's going to deal with Vladimir Putin. And I think they were really painting out to be kind of the big enemy. After all, Kavanaugh is so last week, and we've got Helsinki coming up. So now we get a big red scare. There was one particular question which I actually thought there was something really interesting in President Trump's answer, and I'd like to turn you on to this. Listen to this.
Syria, what exactly you would like to hear from him and what you would like Russia to do?
Yeah. Well, that was another one. I mean, the red line in the sand was a problem for us. I mean, I think you might be in a different...
What would you like President Putin to do now under your watch?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk to him about that before I talk to you, and if something happens, that'll be great, and if it doesn't happen... I'm not going in with high expectations, but we may come out with some very surprising things. But relationship is very important, and having relationship with Russia and other countries, as I said a number of times, is, and I've been saying actually for years, and I've been certainly saying it during my campaign, having relationships with other countries is really a good thing.
We may come out with some very surprising things. Interesting choice of words, might be nothing at all, but if there's something that I've learned over the recent history of following President Trump as he speaks, sometimes it pays to pay attention to the seemingly innocuous. So we shall see. Now, I've taken you over here to post 1603, and this is back in late June. And let me set the stage for you. This was at the time that National Security Advisor John Bolton was arranging the Russia summit. So a lot of this has to do with Russia. And Q here now at the top half is referring to the deep state themselves when he says, if you continue to proceed down this dangerous path, only know that we are prepared. You should know that this based on earlier drops regarding Saudi Arabia / National Guard, blah, 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 blah. This is basically referring to an older event in regarding the Saudi Arabia royal family, and I don't want to go into that. But Q now takes us here. The game is over when the public knows. The fight to keep the lights off is all that matters to you. You will fail. The American people are awake. Yeah, that's essentially what the deep state is doing, right? They're fighting to keep the lights off. The truth is there. The truth is there. Now, we're not getting the truth completely through this IG report. We're getting little bits of truth. It's being slow walked. This is all political jockeying back and forth here. And we've talked about that to great length. The fight to keep the lights off is all that matters to you. You will fail. The American people are awake. You lost control. Sheep no more. Then I find this very interesting too. You underestimated their resolve and their ability to free think away from the pipeline narrative. Well, the pipeline's a very contentious issue in regards to Russia and the USA. Q says, we will declass. We will shine light. There is nowhere to hide. All right. Well, we're seeing more and more information come through this IG report, although it seems to just be a massive dog and pony show. And I think that we all know that. Many of you who follow my channel already know this. This is outward narrative stuff. Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, not cooperating. Q has told us now that they are both cooperating witnesses. That remains to be seen, but it seems to be playing out that way. As ugly as it's getting, we are still getting more information. It's a slow walk. This is all, like I said, the political jockeying, this long, slow walk. It's asinine, but that's what we're dealing with. But what if declassification were able to come from somewhere else? Now, I'm not saying that I know this to be true, but I want you to listen to something that Vladimir Putin has to say right here.
It gives me great regret to state that Russian-U.S. relations are not in their best shape. I said it several times publicly and will reiterate it today. It is the result of acute internal political battle in the U.S. But your visit to Moscow gives us hope that we will be able to take first steps to restore full-fledged relations between Russia and the U.S.
Well, that's what Vladimir Putin had to say back in June at the time that we saw this post 1603. I want to take you down to the second half of this now. And as you heard in the video, I played this for you back in June. That's actually from my video back in June. Vladimir Putin is keenly aware of the inner political strife going on in the United States. Now, he may not know exactly what all the deals are, clearly that's not going to be the case. But he's very aware of the political climate. Q says, if you were smart, stupid, you know what just occurred at the meeting in Russia. And of course, that was Bolton and Putin. Bolton has been traditionally bullish on Russia. Now, we send him out to set up a summit with our President of the United States. Clearly, there must be some sort of shift. Attempts to frame Russia, POTUS, optics are failing and will soon be exposed. Well, what better way to show Russian collusion than asking Russia about Russian collusion? After all of this comes down to Russia, doesn't it? Spying on President Trump. The Trump collusion narrative. Christopher Steele. These 12 indicted Russian GRU officers. But now we're going to hear from Putin himself. And that scares the deep state more than anything. That's why the objective is to keep POTUS away from Putin. And that failed. Bolton plus Putin should scare you. It should scare you. Like I said, Bolton was a Russia hawk, and now he's setting up a meeting with the president. We're clearly moving forward. We may not be friends with Russia, but we can be allies. And Q says enemies are allies. Evil has no place here. And that's essentially what we're working with here. Now, look, as we come up to this summit, the mainstream media can spin this narrative all they want and say that the pressure's all on Trump. I would argue, especially in regards to this article, that most of the pressure is on Putin. After a while, the money is going to dry up out there. Iran is no longer going to be able to assist Russia in bolstering this Assad regime. And we've got people in Iran who can't even get any water taken to the streets. It is definitely time for a change there. And now we're spinning this narrative, Trump versus Putin. But what if it were Trump and Putin? Now look, Russia has a lot to lose here. They need this pipeline. They need this pipeline deal to work out with Germany, or they need to keep that port in the Baltic Sea. But either way, essentially what they're getting from Syria was simply money. And if it's no longer worth it, why stay in the deal? So we shall see what happens with that. But this clearly scares the deep state. And like Q says, America is no longer for sale. The age of taxing our citizens across the world while entry to our free markets is free is over. Yeah, no longer does the EU get to collect checks and send all their businesses into Iran while we sit out there and guard the seas around them while being denied entry. Q says the world will unite in this cause because this is good versus evil, wrong versus right. Once we see more of the declassification, the actual Russian collusion, then we can move forward to what we know we really want to see, which is what is on these servers. What are they protecting? And that's when we're going to be able to see right versus wrong. Q says forced immigration pushes will be exposed as to the why. Yeah, like I just said, once we see what goes on in these servers, we see the whole purpose of running this whole black site in Iran. Weapons, human trafficking, uranium coming over from Kazakhstan. It all went into Iran. That was their black site. Remember, that was where they could do whatever they wanted. And of course, the U.S. couldn't get in, but the entire EU could. And now we're seeing these oil and energy giants like Total SA can't get into Iran anymore. It's not worth it. It's all drying up. That forces Putin to make more of a choice than it does for President Trump. And Q says the world will unite in this cause. Read the Bible. God wins. Q. Now let me take you to post 1626 from June 28th. And as you can see at the top there, we have a tweet from WikiLeaks that says Democratic senators who demanded today that Julian Assange's asylum be revoked in violation of international law. Remember them. So we have all these Democratic senators going after Julian Assange all of a sudden. Why would they want to go after that? And Q says server or Julian Assange equals truth exposed. Now, according to Q says they have the server. As far as Julian Assange goes, that remains to be seen. But if you have either one of those, you're going to get all the information that you're going to need to know, especially and particularly regarding Seth Rich. Now, look, we had this press conference with this lawyer, Berkman, who I'm going to be honest with you, I wanted to punch myself in the face after watching this after a couple hours. I felt like it was a lot of disinformation, but I also felt like there could have been some very purposeful disinformation put in there, and maybe even little bits of information that we could possibly use. Now, this what I'm referring to is this press conference regarding Seth Rich's murder. This Berkman fellow was a former lobbyist, lawyer, working on this Seth Rich case. Kind of estranged from the Seth Rich family, which is also really, really weird. Now, he was working with this Matt Couch, who I want to say this Matt Couch does really, really good work, and I'm not really ready to lump Matt in there with him because I really appreciate Matt Couch's work. Really do. But in relation to this Q post here, it looks like we're going to get some information regarding this Seth Rich, but we can only get it from the server of Julian Assange. After all, those are the sources. Q has said that we already have the server. We'll see about Julian Assange, but either way, Democrats are in a crisis mode, and we see that, seeing them going after Julian Assange's asylum. And of course, James Comey, back some months ago, went and blocked it anyway. So clearly, James Comey doesn't want to get to the bottom of this either. Q goes on to say Putin, Uranium One will come out post-summit. They will try to apply artificial MSM heat to cancel. We've seen it begin right now, and it's going to heat up. It's probably going to heat up straight through the summit. They're going to criticize the summit, and they're going to predict the ramifications for the summit. Now, it would not surprise me if we get some really good, pertinent information from Putin himself, and it may come out post-summit. Who knows? Who knows what we'll see? But either way, this is their worst nightmare, is to see these two together. And that's why they're applying artificial heat. So big events should be about to happen here. Q says these people are corrupt beyond belief. Well, we know that already, and we saw that in 1 Peter struck, didn't we? America for sale, sold out, Q. Now, this is off of TalkingPointsMemo.com. Politico, conservatives in House working on Rosenstein impeachment filing. Conservatives in the House are preparing a document to impeach Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and could file the document as early as Monday, Politico reported Friday afternoon, citing conservative sources on Capitol Hill. Though it appears House conservatives are seriously ramping up their efforts to boot Rosenstein, the timing of the impeachment filing and the level of support for it among the rest of the GOP caucus are not entirely clear. House Freedom Caucus members Representative Mark Meadows of North Carolina and Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio, two of Rosenstein's most vocal critics, are leading the effort. Rosenstein has long been a target of conservatives in Congress unhappy with special counsel Robert Mueller's probe. Most recently, House Republicans have balked at the Justice Department's pace in turning over sensitive documents related to the Russia probe to Republicans on Capitol Hill. The FBI has at times tried to limit who sees sensitive info, but as the New York Times reported on Thursday, the White House recently overruled cabinet leaders and ordered that all members of the House be able to see classified material about an FBI informant. So this should be very interesting to see how this works out. And of course, we know that this is just more slow walking. I have a feeling that this is that next layer. And I've always said this for quite a while, referring back to Q's post, that we have three versions of this. Number one, Whopper with cheese, everything. Fully unredacted, unmodified report. Number two, we've got a modified report, slightly changed by Rod Rowe. And then we have number three, which is what we've been dealing with, which is the modified redacted report, and that's not enough. Now we have these, we've got more emails coming to light. More information coming to light. I feel like this is probably the second layer of the 3-2-1 Rod Rowe bomb about to go off. And of course, Rosenstein is fighting for this tooth and nail, coming out with his indictments of these 12 officers. Now, look, we don't know anything about these officers. We know that they're apparently Russian. We don't know what their connection to Trump is. We have no idea what they were caught with. And this was announced some time ago, so not really big news, but this is another last hurrah for Rod Rosenstein as they go into panic mode and create more and more of a modern-day Red Scare on the way to this summit in Helsinki. Now, as of today, Donald Trump posts this. Where is the DNC server? And why didn't the FBI take possession of it? Deep state? Very interesting question indeed from Mr. Donald Trump. And as of 35 minutes ago, President Trump posts this. The stories you heard about the 12 Russians yesterday took place during the Obama administration, not the Trump administration. Why didn't they do something about it, especially when it was reported that President Obama was informed by the FBI in September before the election? Well, as you know, usually when President Trump asks a question like that, it's rhetorical because he usually already knows the answer, just like the other post as well, too, knowing where the server is. So this remains to be seen, but I'm sure we're going to hear about these 12 Russians for the next few days, probably leading up and through the summit, but hopefully the summit will be what really gives us a lot more information, especially in regards to the server, Uranium-1 in particular, and hopefully leading back to some answers regarding Seth Rich. Let's move on to this next story here. We're on the Daily Caller. Stormy Daniels bust, part of larger human trafficking and prostitution investigation. Now, many of you guys already know Stormy Daniels was busted. All right, she was motorboating some cops in a strip club. No big deal. Stephanie Clifford, whose stage name is Stormy Daniels, was arrested early Thursday morning as part of a long-term investigation into allegations of human trafficking, prostitution, and other vice-related violations, according to local authorities. Daniels was performing at Sirens Adult Entertainment Club in Columbus, Ohio, when she was arrested on 3 counts of illegally sexually oriented activity in a sexually oriented business. Specifically, illegally touching 3 different undercover vice detectives, the Columbus police revealed in a press release. Since last fall, Columbus police were made aware of illegal activity through various adult entertainment clubs throughout the city, local police explained, adding that an unspecified number of arrests have been made as part of this larger investigation. And you can see the tweets about it. And like I said, that many of you guys already know about this. Now, of course, the outward narrative here is going to be this Avenatti and Daniels versus, say, Cohen and Trump and whatever, blah, 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 blah. But what they're not talking about here is that this was a part of a long-term investigation into allegations of human trafficking, prostitution, and other vice-related violations. Okay, so look, I'm not exactly sure. This Stormy Daniels was arrested. Looks like she was released already. I don't really know that this story is so much about Stormy Daniels. I think what intrigues me here is, like I just said, the part of a long-term investigation into allegations of human trafficking. And we're seeing day by day by day more human trafficking related arrests. So could this very well be the white hats pushing at the black hats saying, look, we can come get you anytime we need to. So you better do the right thing. Because I don't really think that if they were really going to go after Stormy Daniels, they're not going to go after her for giving a couple motorboats to some cops, right? They're going to get her with something real. And I'm not so sure that Stormy Daniels may be whatever she is. I don't have anything bad to say about her other than the fact that I think that it's just what it is. Now, could she be a victim? Could she lead us to an MK Ultra situation? Could she possibly lead us into a NXIVM investigation? Could be. But we don't know. All we know is that she's in the news lately a lot with this Avenatti guy. And that's all we know. But I find it very interesting that a lot of news outlets did not immediately say much about this human trafficking part of it. Now, 3 people were arrested. All 3 were charged with illegally sexually oriented activity and sexually oriented business. Let's see what their names were here. Their names were great. Yeah, of course, Stephanie Clifford. That would be Stormy Daniels. And then we got Miranda Panda. Miranda Panda of Marion, Ohio, and Brittany Walters of Pickerington. Folks, I just reported to you about somebody named Miranda Panda getting arrested. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, but you see what's going on here, right? And here you see the Columbus, Ohio police tweet. Columbus makes a 3 arrests at adult entertainment, investigation into allegations of human trafficking, prostitution, and other vice-related violations. So it remains to be seen what happens here, but I find that very interesting, and I will keep you abreast of anything new on that. In light of Peter Strzok's testimony, many people have been getting on the interwebs and finding out some information about the Strzok family, and I wanted to share a little collection here. Thank you to whoever sent this to me. This was posted by an Anon here. Connect the dots, folks. Deep state is deeper than you realize. Something else you might not know. Obama was mentored when in Chicago by former priest Gregory Galuzzo. Gregory Galuzzo graduated from the Spring Hill College in 1960. James Strzok graduated from there in 1964. Peter Strzok's uncle is James Strzok. James Strzok was stationed in Kenya, where Obama once lived. Once Obama is in office, Peter Strzok, nephew of James Strzok, rockets right up to the top of the FBI, becoming the guy for Obama and Hillary to destroy evidence and impact investigations. September of 2015, Strzok requested all HRC email copies from DOE, NSA, NRC, DOJ, NSA, U.S. Treasury. He was the last person to view HRC's deleted emails. The father of Peter Strzok is Peter Strzok Sr. The brother of Peter Strzok Sr. is Mark Strzok. The wife of Mark Strzok is Mariana Strzok. Mariana Strzok is the daughter of General James Cartwright. General James Cartwright was pardoned by Barack Obama on his last day of office. The wife of Peter Strzok, Melissa Hodgman, whom it just so happens was promoted to the role of director of the SEC at the same time the FBI was drafting the exoneration letter for HRC. The father of Peter Strzok Sr., just happened to be in Iran in 1979, the year that the Shah was removed from power and the 2,500 years of continuous Persian monarchy was replaced with an Islamic republic under the Grand Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. CIA, ... Father of Peter Strzok Sr., was in the Army Corps of Engineers, an expert in sanctions and nuclear activity in Iran. His brother Mark Strzok of Mamouet, world leader in big cranes with a specialty in moving nuclear reactors. Want to bet there's a Strzok in Iran? Mariana Strzok, mother of Devin Strzok. Devin Strzok was in the Situation Room in the White House West Wing in May 2015 with his new wife at 9:45 at night. Now, why would that be? The agreement on the nuclear program of Iran was reached in Vienna on 14th of July 2015. Interesting, no? Wonder what, or whom, the Strzok family represents. Obama knows. Okay, that's all I got for you for today. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Even though it'll all get undone anyway, it's still kind of a nice gesture, isn't it? I really appreciate all that you do, and I will be over here on Twitter for the next couple hours doing my thing at IPOT1776, so won't you come join me for the conversation? And if you didn't like the video, please click like, share, and subscribe anyway, and you can come back and tell me how much the next one sucks. This is Sir Patrick Mack, and whatever you do, Don't tell your kids that Miranda Panda got arrested at a strip club in Ohio.